Welcome to the Code of Entry podcast, where we cloud the issues with facts and help you upskill to stay on the digital edge. Here's your host, Greg, with the latest.
Hey team, Greg here with your Code of Entry podcast. Thanks for joining us. Today, I'm planning to talk to you about something near and dear to my heart. I guess like always, I want to talk to you about some cool resources. So, not so much teaching you about any task or talking about search engine optimization or digital marketing or coding or anything, but really just some tools that I found online that help get things done, right? Because work smarter, not harder is something that helps us all in life, not only to get tasks done and save us time, maybe we can, go spend some time with family, but also increase margins. We're in business to make money and take care of things, so anything that we can do, any resources that we can find that'll help with that are great. So I plan to go through a list of things from some outsourcing websites that I like to a tools website that I love, a place to learn some things, a place to get some resources, and just maybe a rant at the end about why you shouldn't be using some softwares like a Kaspersky or working with companies like Huawei, or why TikTok was even such a bad idea. So we'll get to that right after this.
We just wanted to say thanks for listening and remind you to follow, like, and subscribe to Code of Entry on all your favorite channels. We appreciate having you on the team and any help reaching out to others. Always remember, we're here to help you, providing cutting-edge digital insights into this ever-changing industry. Now back to the show.
Hey, so cool resources. What are some things that I use and love and that we use here at Code of Entry to help us out, or just things that I like to look at online? So first cool resource, I'm going to talk about two different services for outsourcing your work. I guess three. First, you can always hire Code of Entry. All right, shameless plug complete. But really first would be Fiverr. So Fiverr, it's Five with two R's. Fiverr.com. You can find a ton of stuff on Fiverr. It's crazy. So it's great for getting a logo designed, or having somebody create content for your website, or getting a voiceover, or maybe you're listening to a podcast that has an intro, outro, and mid-roll audio that I bought on Fiverr, right? So it allows you to find professionals from around the world and get stuff done. Now, the interesting thing with Fiverr is you can categorize it by these levels of sellers. So you can say, hey, I only want the top rated person, or I want level 2, or just below that level 1, or new people that haven't been rated yet. And it's a risk reward proposition. So what I've done a few times in the past finding logos is I'll sketch out something that I kind of like. I'll find some other logos online, and I'm like, I like the looks of these things. What I'll do is I'll pick out some new folks and I'll just pay $5. That's why it's called Fiverr. Things start at $5. I'll pay $5 for some unproven people to give me 2 or 3 logo designs, and I'll pay $25 for one level 2 seller to give me one. And what I found is sometimes you kind of hit gold, right? Or hit pay dirt, where you find a person that's not rated highly just because they haven't been on the site. Not that they're not good. And you get a good graphic back, or they give you enough of an idea of a graphic back that you like it, but it wasn't implemented as well as maybe that level 1 seller. And what you can do is you can then hand the work off and over and get it completed. So Fiverr's pretty cool. You can use it for some backlinking services and stuff. I'll say for a lot of the digital marketing services, you have to be careful. I found a couple of good folks for content writing, but the backlink services by and large are garbage. Right, it's one of those get what you pay for instances where you end up with low quality backlinks that'll hurt you these days. Now, going back to the positive side, find somebody to do server maintenance for you, or write a custom plugin, or any technical skills that you can find. That's very easy to do, but it's some of those outreach services where, hey, I'm going to manually backlink for you. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, right? But go take a look at it, Fiverr.com. They've got tons of categories of stuff, whether you need a life coach or a virtual assistant, or somebody to edit your videos after you make them, right? It's all on Fiverr. It's pretty cool. Now, another one that's a little less informal, so more formal. So if you have a large project you want to do turnkey end to end and you want to bring on a company to help you, or you have tasks that you do all the time and you want to bring in a freelancer or freelance company, that's probably somewhere like Upwork. So I used to use Elance. Elance merged into another company which merged into Upwork eventually. So things like Upwork, there are a lot of outsourcing agencies out there where you can find good people to do good work. I'll say kind of the thing that I noticed though is if you're a non-technical person or you don't have a lot of expertise in an area, any of these outsourcing things can fall short, whether it's Fiverr or Upwork, because you can get got a little bit, right? You're trying to pay a little bit less than you would a brick and mortar company or a US based company in a lot of cases to get a job done. But stuff gets lost in translation. There's time zone differences. You don't have quite enough expertise to manage it hands-on. So sometimes it can be hard to get what you expect. In the past, before Code of Entry was a thing, I was helping a client. I didn't have a lot of extra time for a side project for them. And so I helped them manage a website build over Upwork. It worked out really well, but it took me a lot more time than I expected because there was a lot of hand-holding going on. So I think maybe from like an agency perspective, you're trying to scale your work, you haven't found the right person to hire yet, you need to hand off a project or a phase of projects to do, I think Upwork's a pretty good choice. If you're listening to this and you're a business that's out there and you're like, hey, I want my first website, I wouldn't quite recommend it. It's going to be more managerial time than you think that it will be. And by the time you put those hours in, it just depends on what your time is worth. It's probably worth just going and getting somebody to do it. But still, cool resources of Fiverr and Upwork. I recommend both. There's just kind of a targeted use for each one. If nothing else, go to Fiverr and just look at the variety of tasks that they do. It's awesome. It's kind of crazy that people do some of it, but it's awesome. All right, so that's a couple places that I find help, right? My favorite thing on the list that we're going to talk about today is AppSumo. So if you haven't heard of AppSumo, you're kind of in the growing minority. But yeah, you got to check it out. So it's appsumo, sumo.com. Go to AppSumo and just look. So they get great deals on a lot of up and coming like startup IT services. Some not so up and coming anymore. And basically what you're doing is you're paying to come in as a beta user, and you get a greatly reduced rate because you're basically saying, hey, I realize that this is not a mature solution yet, or I realize that you're just going to production and you're looking to stress your system. And so if it breaks, it's okay. But you're also saying, hey, I'm going to pay $49 for one code of AppSumo, and I'll probably leave a review and give you feedback. So a lot of people in the AppSumo community, they call them Sumolings. A lot of Sumolings will leave like really in-depth reviews. One, it helps if you want to buy a code for these things, but two, it's really good for developers. So you can sign up your own product to be an AppSumo product too. A lot of stuff I've gotten over the years on AppSumo, WordPress plugins that automatically manage like mailing for you. An invoicing service that we used for a while here at Code of Entry, chatbots, a couple of different versions of chatbots just because they did different things well. God, the list goes on and on. And stuff. Deposit photos, like stock photo codes. So you're able to go on deposit photos, and instead of paying the premium you pay there, you buy basically a redemption coupon on AppSumo, and you get a really reduced price. SEO tools like MarketMuse, a webinar system that I get free for life now. So these codes, the way that they end up working is some are lifetime deals. So you pay whatever the price is and you get access for life, and then they can make it so you can stack codes. So if you get 5, you get like unlimited as an example. So I've got pretty nice subscriptions for a lot of different services that have come in handy, and I do impulse buy because you never know what you're going to like tomorrow, and these things run kind of on a limited schedule, right? They're in there for a month and they're gone. Talking about it too much, but go to AppSumo and check it out. They've got funny videos too on each of the products in the product showcases. So unsolicited, unpaid plug, just a fan of AppSumo. All right, so what's next? I talk about upskilling quite a bit, and really you just need to learn things. Not a big fan of degrees. I do have some. I think really what you learn is how you learn. And I've learned that I learned really effectively with online things, videos that I can follow along. I can figure just about anything out if you show me where to start. So that's why I love Udemy. Udemy. Go to their website, and what you'll find there is if you're a new customer, like all of the courses are like 10 or 11 bucks. And these will be like 40 hours on a full stack developer bootcamp. It'll be, 40 hours of content on AWS cloud certifications, or, several hours on Kubernetes or Ansible or Docker or whatever else you're trying to stay kind of current with. I think right now in my box, I've got some courses going on for WordPress API and headless WordPress implementation, just because I haven't done it much. So I bought a $10 class. Awesome. I've got another one on automating tasks with Ansible, 2020 full stack developer bootcamp, because it's hard to stay current. So why not see what the latest is? There's another one, but I keep several classes going because they're like $10 at a time. So I pay $10 and I just get to it when I get to it. So I really love Udemy. You can find classes on a bunch of topics. A lot of them have had thousands of users who've rated them as well. So they do a good job of like asking students to rate. So you can find out which classes are good and which ones aren't. If you're interested in teaching, you can also put material up there, but I think it can be kind of hard to break through that layer of folks where if you're a proven Udemy content provider, you kind of get launched to the top because you have so many reviews behind you. But you can see the goodness in that as a student, right? One of the things I'll say is if you go and there's not a sale, wait. That's why I buy a handful at a time. If you go and you're a new student, you'll probably always get a sale. If you've bought some before, you'll go back and the class will be like hundreds of dollars. Well, wait, there's a sale at least once a month. Just wait until they're back to the $10, $11, $12 price range. You can get whatever you want. But Udemy's pretty clutch. There's a cell phone app so you can download lessons. So like if you're going to be flying on a plane or something, that's where I do a lot of my watching. Another pretty cool thing there. So the next couple of things I wanted to talk about are really IT related resources. So first is like a data science environment. So one of the things that you'll struggle with is you always have to set things up on your computer, right? Like, oh, hey, I want to script in Python. What's Jupyter Notebook? Let me download Jupyter Notebook. Or I want to learn the statistical programming language R. Okay, I need to install R. I need to install RStudio. Then I can start playing with my scripts and do whatever. Alternately, maybe you're a Homebrew fan, right? No, I don't have to install anything. I can just go to Homebrew and say, brew cask install RStudio. Okay, great. You're still putting things on your computer. It's still time to start up. Something like a Matrix DS is really cool because you don't have to do any of that setup stuff. And it's already integrated with the code repository. So what you can do is you're like, hey, I need to work on an R project and I want to make a statistical model that solves something, right? Instead of installing R and RStudio on your computer, using your computer's RAM to try to run through and get the answer because R works in memory, what you can do is you can spin up an instance online. You go to Matrix DS, you say, hey, I want to start a project using R, this much memory, this many CPUs. Go. It spins up an instance, not unlike if you were going to use something like Amazon, just a little bit more friendly. And you have an environment where you can create your code, store your code, share your code, manage your code, right? It's just a really neat, all-encapsulated system there that allows you to do some data science. So it's it's a pretty modern data science sandbox. So check out Matrix DS. I think in one of the coming podcasts here, I'm going to try to get the founder of Matrix DS on. That can be a really cool conversation. He's one of the preeminent data science, what's the right word? I'm going to say influencers, but one of the top data science personalities on LinkedIn, right? So hopefully I can get him on. and there's a free tier to that, so no risk. Pretty neat thing. The next thing, kind of along with that, I mentioned AWS. So Amazon Web Services, AWS, their free tier is ridiculous. So if you are a new AWS customer, you can, or you have a new email address, just saying, you can get on AWS and you can spin up servers in the cloud to use for a variety of instances, right? So it's kind of hard to talk about AWS if you don't know the vernacular, right? So you can spin up a server, which is an elastic compute cluster, so EC2, or Elastic Cloud Compute, EC2, Elastic Cloud Compute. You can spin up an EC2 node and deploy just about whatever you want on it. Now, you got to remember to turn it off, which is the great thing about the free tier. It gives you a chance to spin up, spin down, learn things before you accidentally have this big paid-for server in the cloud that you forget to turn off and you get charged a bunch of money. There's so many cool things in AWS. So there's these data science sandboxes that you can use. So that basically what you do is you spin up a server that has on what they call an Amazon Machine Instance, an AMI, a deep learning AMI on it with all the tools that you would ever need for data science. You can stand up a database, whether it's their relational database system or what do they call their MongoDB, the DynamoDB, simple storage service, S3, Glacier, tons of ways. You can put up a free website that uses static files, hosting it in S3 for cents a month, right? The biggest barrier to AWS, I think, is just learning the vernacular. So going back to Udemy, I took a course on Udemy so that I could get used to it, and I work with Amazon really daily now. But anybody that's out there, I think if there's a skill, and I hit this in the podcast with Justin Cleveland, I think if there's any skill somebody should pick up, it's just being aware of commercial cloud services, what technologies are available, where they're going, and the AWS free tier gives you a great way to do that. And I'm not doing it justice, right? You can send out automated text messages, you can send out push messages for mobile apps, you can host your mobile apps, you can do really just about anything. I will say that one of the considerations that's kind of overlooked, maybe undersold with cloud is everybody's worried about the scalability, the elasticity, the ability to spin up and spin down instances. But if you have a stable workload, it's still a good place for you too. And if you're going to have a stable workload, it's actually cheaper to reserve it in advance. So the pricing is significantly less if you're going to reserve something. So if I know that I'm going to have this consistent workload running in the cloud all the time, instead of waiting a year to figure out that it cost me double because I didn't just pay in advance. Sometimes just pay in advance, even if it's close, right? Just pay in advance. You'll have dedicated resources. It's cheaper that way. And we'll talk a lot more about cloud services on the podcast, so I don't want to go too far there, but I just want to make sure I kind of hammer in like, hey, that AWS free tier is there for you to go and look and learn about things, and really just kind of upskill yourself, because that's what Code of Entry is all about, right? It's figuring out where that digital edge is. Amazon is the leader in this space, right? If you look at the Gartner Magic Quadrant, Gartner rates companies on their ability to deliver and their level of innovation. Amazon dominates everyone else when it comes to the cloud space. So go use their free tier and learn. Okay, so something a little bit more fun. I'm a big fan of a website called Canva. And Canva allows you to go, and again, there's free resources. I don't pay for it. You can make kind of your pictures, your layouts, your logos, for your socials, for your website. You can make flyers. You can make screenshots to put in your YouTube videos or anywhere in Canva. And they've got a lot of options that are free. So they added on where you can also do videos. So you can do like intro, outro videos, or just short snippets to use for anything, right? But Canva's great. I've used it for Code of Entry work. I've used it for, I'm a big Taekwondo fan, by the way. I've used it for Taekwondo school flyers. I've used it for Taekwondo scholarship flyers, social media posting for different Taekwondo stuff. So I got into it really to support my Taekwondo hobby and kind of spreading the word there. And then I'm like, wow, this actually has a lot more power. So we create all of the Code of Entry social media graphics in Canva, and it's great. There are some definite benefits to the paid version, but you get a lot out of the free version. So Canva gets an A+. So next, this is like second in my heart next to AppSumo, and it's Envato. So if you haven't heard of Envato, you need to go look. So Envato now has this thing called Envato Elements. Envato Elements actually branched out of really their base websites that they created. So Envato has a website called ThemeForce that does website themes. They have another website called Code Canyon, which does different code snippets you can buy, whether it's a plugin or some type of JavaScript script or PHP, whatever language. You can find people that have created modules of code to do functions, and you search what kind of thing you're looking for, and you can buy it there and integrate it into your own site. And PhotoDune is a stock photo service. Audio Jungle, which is stock audio files. It is crazy the stuff they have at the price point they have on these Envato websites. All right, so let me circle back to the first one I said there, which was Envato Elements. Now what they've done is they've packaged a lot of that stuff up into a subscription service, so you can get unlimited downloads of pictures and stock videos and website templates. And like, I'm a big Elementor fan. We use Elementor a lot for Code of Entry. You can have pre-done Elementor templates that you go to WordPress, you install the Envato plugin, and it pulls them into the website and pulls in all the assets that you need. So if you need templates, assets, stock anything, they're in Envato, and then you get an unlimited commercial license with them. So yeah, it's pretty sick. And I think the trick there, you would think, well, it's a subscription, I've got this license, but if I cancel my subscription, can I still use it? It's actually expressly put in their terms that you can. What they do is when you download any of these elements or anything, it asks you to select which project you're working on, and then you're covered under the license. So yeah, Envato is awesome. Just go to their website and look around. You can find plugins that do anything, website templates that look like almost anything. Audio Jungle is pretty neat too. That's where like the music for the podcast at the beginning and end, I got that off Audio Jungle. So it's super cool. All right, next thing is not really a secret. I just want to, throw it out there. The Adobe Creative Cloud Suite. The Adobe Creative Cloud Suite makes sure that you can have Photoshop and Adobe Premiere and Adobe Audition and After Effects and any other Adobe thing that you want. Dreamweaver, if you're an old school website builder, right? You can get access to all of those for one subscription fee. I use the Creative Cloud Suite a lot. I get my money's worth there. If you're a student, you can put in your .edu email address and get a discount. If you're an educator, you can do the same thing. It's still reasonably priced compared to the old days when you would go buy, $300 Photoshop CD that would be out of date. And I just dated myself because I said CD. But the Creative Cloud Suite is awesome. You download a plugin to your computer. You can pull them down and get to work doing just about anything that you need to do for digital design. So I recommend that to anybody that's going to be doing serious work. There are free programs out there, but this is an instance kind of the Fiverr Upwork conversation where you get what you pay for. So the last thing I wanted to talk about for kind of cool tools was really going to be hosting providers. So I've bumped around between hosting providers over the years, and I think right now I've kind of settled on using SiteGround for a lot of our WordPress work. Hey, truth in lending, I don't think they're perfect, but hey, they've got an integrated CDN. They do caching pretty effectively. The uptime's reliable. The site speed is fast. I'm still not convinced on some of their kind of arbitrary hurdles that are in the background. Like there's a mailing plugin I like to use on WordPress that I can't use on them. I don't know why they block it, right? We'll figure it out. It's not a big deal. The email can be a little interesting. But as far as like site speed and reliability to keep my sites up, I think they're my favorite so far. The cheapest I found out there is HostGator, and I have a love-hate relationship with HostGator because, hey, I love cheap. And I really like how they work on some of their lower price shared hosting accounts, right? Everything just, it works, that's fine. But you don't get a lot of performance. As soon as you go to kind of virtual private server land with them, it is largely unmanaged, non-performant, disappointing, and that's really all I can say. So, if you're on a small shared account and you want to get started, hey, HostGator is a great place to go. If you're on a bigger site, I'd probably recommend something like a SiteGround, or starting to investigate more Amazon's Lightsail, to go back to those AWS services earlier. So Lightsail is neat. It's gotten a lot better in the last year because it is fairly new. So that's Amazon's VPS service. So, a year ago I would have been like, no, stay away from Lightsail. It has gotten a lot better. I think you can scale up to like 5 servers now and do some load balancing and stuff. So it's probably this paradigm where I would go from, beginner, not a lot of traffic, doing some web stuff. Okay, HostGator shared account. Next to a SiteGround kind of mid-range site, large enterprise site. And I say large with air quotes. Okay, medium business website would probably be like a Lightsail. Then when you get up to enterprise site, you're probably good enough to do your own evaluations there. You just have to start thinking about whether you want dedicated servers, how you want to scale, what the load really is on your site, whether you need to be able to burst for different periods of the day. But that's really my hosting providers thing here. There's so many hosting providers out there, and I'm sure you're listening to this, you're like, oh, but I use A2 hosting, or I use Bluehost, or I use GoDaddy. All right, if you use GoDaddy for hosting, I'm sorry, but we're never going to agree on anything, by the way, because not the host. All right, but there are a lot of hosting providers out there. It's hard to go wrong. They're just ones that do things better than others, which when we get into the episode on talking about the cloud, that's really the cloud provider thing, right? Like, everybody does something well. And it's figuring out what you need done, and if you need kind of a balanced look, there's probably one person that outperforms most people in one area, or kind of overall, so go for that one. So what did we talk about? Went down some cool resources, and I'm sorry, it was just kind of stream of consciousness. It was just stuff I want to share, because I think what gets kind of caught up and keeps people from succeeding is you don't know what you don't know, right? So I wanted to share some things that I like. So for outsourcing, I was like, hey, Fiverr and Upwork came to mind for just deals on neat software that you might be able to get in on the ground level and get a lot for what you paid. AppSumo was awesome. If you want to learn anything and you don't necessarily care about the degree but want to pick up the skills, that's where Udemy comes in. You're interested in doing some development online, some data science stuff, MatrixDS is phenomenal. Start playing around online and learning Amazon. That Amazon free tier is great. Amazon and cloud in general dominates everybody else. So I could go through, and it's like alphabet soup, all of their services, but just go look, figure it out for yourself. If you have questions, hey, reach out to us. Happy to help anybody, anytime. Then it's like, hey, how do we make these pictures and stuff online? I could use the Adobe Creative Cloud, which I talk about later, but just use Canva. Stupid easy to use, great for their free tier. You can make images for anything, and they look good. So introduced you to Canva, Envato Elements, Envato Theme Forest, Code Canyon, Photo Dune, Audio Jungle. I started my online journey thanks to those resources, right? So that kind of one category, and Envato Elements is new to me because before I was kind of an early adopter of Envato. So now that the elements are available, I started subscribing to those, but Envato is cool. Adobe Creative Cloud, they're pro level tools. So if you don't need professional quality stuff and you don't have the time to kind of learn them, it can be hard. But man, if you start to pick them up, they'll change your life. You will actually be able to make digital products that are professional very quickly. And I think it's worth paying for. And then hosting providers, just kind of talked about hosting providers a little bit from what we're using now with SiteGround to kind of your economy with HostGator towards my kind of jab at GoDaddy. I would never use them for hosting. I've got a client that does that. I manage their stuff. I wish they would change, but they won't. It is what it is. So yeah, that's the roll up of this week's episode on cool resources, and hopefully you'll be back. I do want to close out with a rant because I missed that last time. So we were talking to Justin Cleveland. It went 45 minutes, which is awesome, and I didn't want to belabor the point on that episode. But what I want to talk about this time in my rant is why you shouldn't use things like Kaspersky or Huawei, kind of related to like why the Chinese version of TikTok was such a big deal. So it's like people just don't listen, right? Nobody wants to hear facts. So we've got this environment where people care about their privacy, but you want to go in with companies that are owned by foreign governments that are taking your information to try to weaponize it against you. That's your Kaspersky or Huawei. Or enter TikTok. That's collecting all this personal information about you, that's taking these pictures of you and your environment, uploading them to a server somewhere to get used for reasons that you don't really want to know. And it's a big deal when our government tries to block that. So it's a big deal when we try to block Huawei. Hey, so what? We might be behind 30 days going to 5G because we blocked Huawei, and it was going to take us longer to investigate it with another company. Okay, big deal. But what you have with Kaspersky and Huawei is you have companies that are in the supply chain for the manufacturing of their product and are able to violate your privacy in a ton of ways and use the data for a lot of malicious purposes, and you'll never even know it. And it's worth it to let someone take care of you and just say, hey, let's ban these products. But hey, if you want to go download Kaspersky right now, you can go online and do that. Highly advised against it unless you need a cybersecurity consultant to come clean up your mess later. You know where to find me. The kind of the drama overall, the U.S. banned Huawei. Hey, that's great because we don't need all of our intellectual capital stolen, right? Everything gets transmitted over the internet, and we don't need somebody sitting in the middle that can pick off whatever they want. Learning things from our corporations and just our average citizens. So I'm fine with that. And then you go back to TikTok, right? There's a big uproar, and it's probably just because it was President Trump, and we kind of know how that went. But the banning of TikTok, right? Like, awesome, great idea. I knew a lot of people in the cybersecurity community that would not download TikTok or let their children download TikTok or anybody they knew use TikTok because it was that big of a risk. And then we go to ban it, and all of a sudden it's a big deal. If we had as easy of time with our culture canceling things that were a national security risk as we can cancel social media platforms or actors or actresses who say things we don't like, we'd be a lot better off. So why can't our cancel culture find it in their heart to cancel things that are a risk to our nation and our day-to-day lives? I don't know. But that's kind of my rant here. So please don't use Kaspersky. No love for Huawei. And thankfully TikTok was bought out by an American company so that we can shore up some of those security holes. Because, when it comes to other governments owning or directing companies that collect a lot of information on Americans, you just can't be too safe. So that's my rant. Wrapping up the episode, cool resources, and hope that you find your way back to the podcast next time. So we're going to talk about a little bit about the cloud. I'm going to give you an intro, kind of a crash course into some of the different cloud providers, what they offer, why you might want to pick one over another one, some of the certifications that are out there, and which ones I think you should invest some time in. And we'll hit another rant, probably another little bit more political on that one. I just want to talk a little bit about the Capitol riots, because why not? All right. Thanks. Take care. Keep hustling.
Thanks for listening. Find us on social media at Code of Entry and online at codeofentry.com. Check back for new episodes or join the team by signing up for notifications. Until next time, keep hustling.